and the best trained people anywhere in the state of Texas. We have a great group of people that are working with us in this response. Today has been a day that is typical for this time of year in this part of Texas, and it's not unusual for us to see some changing weather conditions as the day progresses, and so that may be what has happened today. I want to give you just a little briefing about it, and then I want to introduce the men who are standing behind me here, who will also have some comments about their role in the response to this disaster. As of now, it looks like maybe 630 or 40 acres has been burned in this fire. 150 of those acres were scheduled to be burned. The rest of them were burned as apparently that controlled fire got out of its boundaries. We have been able to evacuate the people out of whose homes would be in the path of the fire. So far, we believe we've asked about 250 families to be evacuated from their homes. That's precautionary because we've had to turn off the power in those areas so that that wouldn't create even more issue. Because of that, these families have been asked to evacuate either to relatives or friends or families or to churches or other places. We do have, however, a shelter that has been opened in the Elgin Recreation Center up in Elgin, Texas. It's located at 361 State Highway 95 North in Elgin. It's the Elgin Recreation Center, and families who have been asked to evacuate can go there to meet up with family, be reconciled with other family members who may be coming in from work and that sort of thing. If they need a place to stay and need to be sheltered tonight, there are some facilities at that facility for that purpose. If not, then we will find other facilities for them throughout the evening. We also have a respite center open in Bastrop for first responders and firefighters. It's located at 1209 Linden Lane. It's the Bastrop Community Senior Center, and it's open just for those who are out here putting their life on the line to fight this fire and to protect the health and safety of our citizens. We ask that everybody stay away from both of those areas unless you need to be there. If you're not a firefighter or a first responder, don't interfere with what's going on at the senior center in Bastrop. And if you don't need evacuation services or need to be reunited with any family members, then please stay away from the Recreation Center in Elgin as well. With that, I wanted to introduce a couple of people who are very important when these kinds of things happen. Carter Smith is Executive Director of the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department. And he is a great friend of ours, a partner with ours. We've enjoyed the beautiful state parks here in Bastrop County. And with that beauty comes also the challenge of protecting our resources. So I wanted Carter to say a few words, and then he's also going to introduce Chief Nim Kidd, who is the head of emergency management for the entire state of Texas. And Chief is well known here in Bastrop as well, and he's a great partner with us in these responses. I'm also joined tonight by our state representative, John Syria. I'm certainly glad to have his backing here tonight as well. So Carter, if you'll come forward and say a few words to this audience.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Judge. Good evening. This morning at 10:30, the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department initiated a prescribed fire at Bastrop State Park. Prescribed fire is an integral part of the management and stewardship of this forest. The part of the state park that was subject to be burned with the fire has gone through 2 prescribed fires by the department since the wildfire of 2011. And our objectives with that fire really revolve around helping to manage fuel loads and restoring the historic forest condition for which this iconic park is so well known and enjoyed by people from all over our state. A little after noon, our prescribed fire specialists noticed spotting outside of the prescribed fire boundaries. They think that spotting was likely caused from embers from the fire. We don't know the particular cause or genesis of that. Once we have completed putting out this fire and ensuring we've done everything we can to protect the health and safety and well-being of our neighbors, we will then begin the review into the cause and origin of the fire. And so at this juncture, The department's role is to support the judge, the county, our local officials, our partners, our neighbors, the community in which we live and work and steward this state park. And so the department is providing all of the resources that it can to help with containing this fire, and we will focus on that until this fire is put out. We work obviously very closely in these situations with the Texas Division and Department of Emergency Management. Chief Nim Kidd, who heads up the state's response to these kind of events. And as the judge said, he's been a terrific partner in incidents not only here in Bastrop County but in elsewhere. And so at this juncture, I'd like to introduce Chief Kidd and ask him to say a few words about the multi-agency effort that is being deployed now to help protect the safety and well-being of our neighbors and their property. Thank you. Chief.
Thanks, Carter. Good evening. As we look at incident management priorities, life safety of our citizens and our responders is our #1 priority. Our second priority is protecting the property, both homes and businesses, of those that are in the path of this fire. Our third priority is the environmental protection that goes along with it. We have firefighters literally from all over the state here and more on the way here. Aircraft here and more will be on the way. And our #1 goal is to get this fire contained. With that comes the evacuations that are in place. Local evacuation orders have been put out. We please encourage the citizens and viewers not to come to the area if you don't live here, and if you do, go to one of the relocation or reunification centers. Again, life safety is our #1 priority. We have no citizens that we're aware of are hurt or injured at this time. We absolutely want to keep it that way. If your home has been put under an evacuation order, please heed that evacuation order. The communication pages from the Bastrop County Office of Emergency Management are great resources. They're up to date. That's where you will find the streets that have been evacuated, the neighborhoods that have been evacuated. And please, we just ask for the partnership and the participation of the citizens that are impacted by this right now. Listen to the local officials, and every resource available is on the way to help support this incident. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Chief Kidd. And thank you, Carter, for your comments as well. We're going to take a few questions here, but I just wanted to follow up on what Chief was saying. If you know of someone in the area that has been evacuated who maybe needs to be looked after or called on, let us know about that. If there are some senior citizens who maybe don't have a way to get out, or maybe don't have social media especially, which would alert them to the need to evacuate. We are using the reverse 911 system, which is available to us through CAPCOG, and it's a very effective system, but not everybody has that kind of technology. So if you know someone that we need to check on, just let us know and we'll send a deputy in there. Don't go in there yourself to check on them. We need to have control of who is in the area that's been evacuated so that no one gets injured. And so please note that. We'll take a few questions now. We also have Mr. Rich Ray with the Texas Forest Service here today, and he's sort of leading the response as far as the fighting of the fire and the positioning of resources out in the field, and maybe he could answer some questions as well. So are there any questions? Yes, Andy.
Andy Austin, American Statesman. This morning, local fire officials were putting out warnings to not do outdoor burning because of the heightened risk for wildfires today. Why did officials go ahead with the prescribed burn?
I'll let Carter come and address that. I think he sort of talked about that a while ago, but Carter, come and talk a little bit about some of the criteria that y'all use to determine when it's appropriate to burn.
So before we conduct any kind of a prescribed fire, there is a specific plan that's developed by those who are going to be implementing the fire, and it's done in concert with all of the requisite local, state, and federal issues. Are very specific temperature and weather parameters that are defined that dictate whether or not a prescribed fire will or will not be commenced. At this juncture, it's my understanding that we were well within the prescription of the weather parameters that were called for within the plan, and so our team felt that it was safe to proceed, and that's all I know at this juncture.
Any other questions?
What factors do you all believe caused the prescribed burn to get out of control?
Carter, you want to address that, or maybe we could have Rich also say a few words about how fire.
At this juncture, we simply do not know. It would be too premature to speculate on the cause and origin. To be clear, we do think that it is likely that embers from the prescribed fire were likely the cause of the fire outside of the park. But right now, our priority is protecting the health and safety of the people around the fire and their property. And so once we have successfully accomplished that, we will come back and do a thorough review, and we'll be able to answer that question more definitively. But at this juncture, I would simply be speculating.
Just a follow-up, sir, before you, I think this might be for you. I know you said that you guys looked at federal requirements before starting the prescribed burn, but did you guys take the county's burn ban into consideration at all, or are they just different criteria?
We do not currently have a burn ban in effect.
Yeah, the judge just said there is no burn ban in effect in Bastrop County. Again, when we carry out a prescribed fire, and we do dozens and dozens of these across the state, a plan is developed in advance of that fire. Very specific parameters are identified by which our team believes that we can successfully carry out that fire. When we prepare those plans, we do those in concert with a variety of partners. Sometimes they're with the Texas A&M Forest Service. They may be with Bastrop County. They may be with other partner agencies. But our team does not commence a fire unless they believe it's safe to do so. At this juncture, clearly we have a lot to learn about what potentially transpired and what was the ultimate cause for embers likely from the prescribed fire to initiate the fire off the park. But at this juncture, again, we simply can't answer that question.
How close is the fire to any structures?
Rich Gray, as I said, is here with Texas Forest Service. He's sort of leading the response to the fire. Rich, answer that.
Sure. So we did have fire that came in very close to structures. All of the local responders, the fire departments that are here, made a valiant effort, and to the best of my knowledge, have saved the majority of all the occupied homes. We did have 2 subdivisions on the north side of 21 threatened and 1 to the south. We're estimating about 100 homes that were threatened. Now that might be threatened by smoke and ember drift or fire very close to or on those structures. But so far, particularly the local resources that made the initial attack were very successful in saving homes.
How does this fire...
At this point in time, don't have a count on any structures that were burned, no occupied structures. We're verifying 1 outbuilding that we think has burned, but I don't have that verified yet. But as to this point in time, we have no verified occupied structures that were lost.
How does this fire compare to the one that happened in 2011? Would you say it's worse, equal?
Any fire is a threat, especially when it's threatening a home. The conditions now are much more subdued than we had in 2011. The fire, like noted, is about 600 acres. Refresh memory that the Bastrop complex was 34,000 acres. So this fire is very serious, but it is not a Bastrop complex of 2011. We're at 10% containment right now. We have most of that in and around the structures. We still have a lot of work out in the purely wildland fuels where our dozers are currently constructing lines.
You guys mentioned that there were firefighters coming in from across the state. Do you have an estimate of how many are here and how many more are still on their way?
Yes, ma'am. There's about 200 that are currently on scene, both local and mutual aid departments as well as state assets. In addition to that, we have 2 additional strike teams of Texas Interstate Fire Mutual Aid System firefighters. Those are firefighters from all over the state that are inbound. Some should be here shortly, and additional later tonight. And in addition to that, we have 5 additional tractors or dozers from Texas A&M Forest Service that will be here in the morning. Okay, really good. So as you mentioned, the Bastrop Fire 2011 has greatly altered the fuel complex in and around these homes. So that heavy down and dead makes it challenging for engine apparatus, things like that. So mixing heavy equipment and engine apparatus has been not the challenge, but the success. It's just slow going in these heavy fuels.
Yes. As you know, Bastrop County has a history with wildfires. A lot of residents are traumatized every time they see smoke.
Yes.
Many residents voiced concerns early this morning on social media toward the prescribed burn, saying, hey guys, we have local alerts against heightened wildfire risk. Why are you doing this? Now we saw what happened. What do you say to these people?
Wildfire is a tool, or actually fire is a tool to help prevent wildfire. Prescribed burns are very important action to protect the beautiful forest that we have here in Bastrop County, and to protect the homes and the families who live here. We learned in after the 2011 conflagration that one reason that was so bad is that for years before that we hadn't had the ability to do prescribed burns, and so the forest grew up like a jungle, and there was no way for firefighters to enter that kind of environment and effectively fight the fire. Once it got started, we just had to pull out and let it go. Prescribed burns are a great tool to keep that kind of thing from happening. And I'm very thankful that Parks and Wildlife use their resources and their skilled personnel to exercise prescribed burns when it's appropriate in Bastrop County. And you heard Mr. Smith say that under all, based on everything they knew this morning, it was an appropriate day to burn. Now, none of us can predict the weather more than 15 minutes ahead of time. And sometimes things happen that we just don't anticipate. But I'm not going to be critical of the efforts to protect our citizens from wildfire by using prescribed burn. I think it's a great tool and one that we need to continue to encourage people to use. Are there any other questions? Chief Kidd has a list of all of the apparatus that are available to us tonight in responding to this fire. Many of them have come from other agencies. The state has been providing all that they can. In fact, if it's useful in fighting a fire, it's in Bastrop County right now, I can tell you that. If you'd like to have a record of that information, Chief will make that available to you once the news conference is over. Are there any other pertinent questions that we haven't responded to yet? All right, we thank you all for being here. Pray for rain and pray for calm. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Are we rolling? We don't need to be rolling. Thank you guys so much for being here.
Thank you.
We're obviously going to work to continue to get the most up-to-date information out to you guys. If I don't already have your number, if I didn't get it earlier, if you want to drop it off, you'll be put on our group text to make sure that you receive any information that we're doing.